All right, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so in the U.S., 1 in 7 people are foreign born, according to migrationpolicy.org. Immigrants from Mexico account for 25% of this foreign born population, and most of them did not speak English as their first language, but spoke Spanish instead. So I believe that because of this huge population of foreign born people who didn't speak English as their first language, it would be beneficial for public elementary and middle schools to be required to teach foreign languages to students. So all of you in this room, I'm assuming, have taken a foreign language class at some point in your life. I know in Illinois it's required by law to take it in high school or in college, and so some of you might be taking one right now actually. But in my experience, I started learning languages in 3rd grade. I went to a private school and I learned Latin, which no one speaks, no one really knows how to pronounce it, so it wasn't very helpful, but it helped me learn the roots of English words. But then I transferred from my private school to my public school, and in 8th grade I learned Spanish, and by that time it was really hard for my brain to get adjusted to new pronunciation, vocabulary, and grammar, because my brain was already much more formed than it was in 3rd grade when I was 8. So, and then in high school I took French for 2 years, and then by this time though, according to the article, adolescent maturity in the brain, it was harder for my brain to succeed at learning a new language because my brain was already more formed. So in both 8th grade and high school, I had a much harder time than if I had started and continued with a language, preferably other than Latin because it wasn't helpful, but other than starting when I was young. So my name is Maggie Brewer, and today I'll be discussing why it's better to learn languages and the personal benefits of learning languages at a young age, as well as the benefits for the United States when implementing this policy. So my first item to discuss is the ability of kids' brains to adapt to learning a new language. Kids' brains have high neuroplasticity, making them adept at learning new things, such as languages. You may ask, well, what is neuroplasticity? And it's the ability of the brain to change as a result of learning new concepts or experiencing new things. So, an article called Neuroplasticity in Children states, in this context, it is important to understand the plasticity of the brain. The term neuroplasticity is derived from the Greek word plastikos, meaning to form. Neuroplasticity refers to structural and functional changes in the brain that are brought about by training and experience. I learned about neuroplasticity in my psych class last year in high school, and it's something that I've remembered through coming to college. And I remember it a lot because people actually encounter it way more than they think. It's not just a term that neuroscientists or neurosurgeons use, but it's something that we run into from when we're born. So, for example, it's advised for babies to have their parents speak to them regularly and play games with them based on their ability, because babies' brains are at a crucial point in development. And you might have seen videos of kids who have been locked up for the first 13 years of their life or whatever, and they have no language development at all because no one was ever talking to them. And it's these really big cases that are like it's a felony to do that to your children because it affects them so much later in life and so for so long. So the things babies' brains encounter within the first years of their life can dramatically affect their learning patterns and success in school in the future. The same neuroplasticity article says it is this neuroplastic principle which forms the basis for early stimulation, programs and environments that provide enriched activities that stimulate various sensory, motor, and language development will enhance synaptogenesis and bring about a change in the brains of infants. In the same way, the brains of young children, as you see here, are highly impacted by experience. The same article informs readers that, in fact, the human brain is not fully mature until you're 20. Moreover, during this long development, the human brain is highly dependent on and modified by experience. This is saying that all of us, whether we realize it or not, have been affected since birth and as young children by our interactions and by the languages that we hear. My second point deals with the results of learning a second language on the success of students learning. Being taught a foreign language at a young age is necessary to comprehension, pronunciation, and memory of that language, and is correlated to higher standardized test scores. According to the article, Foreign Language Study in Elementary Schools, younger children develop a better and more native-like pronunciation of a second language. By having a foreign language included in their curriculum. There has been a positive correlation found between foreign language study and higher grades in the core subjects like math, English, science, and social studies. So this is saying even though foreign language is different from English, math, science, and social studies, it helps you get better grades just by the way that it affects your brain and how your brain learns. This article also states that regardless of the foreign language program schools have, whether it's full immersion where you're speaking a foreign language the entire day at school, or you're just taking it for one subject a day, students in many countries have shown benefits of becoming bilingual, improved attitudes toward cultural and linguistic diversity, and improvements on standardized test scores. So even within our own country, a study of a charter school in Missouri that was in an impoverished neighborhood had a majority of its students improve on their test scores and become more academically advanced than students from other schools that didn't learn foreign languages. Thinking maybe I skipped something. Yeah, okay. So, I definitely did. So yeah, the article develops a more native-like pronunciation. There's been a positive correlation included in these grades. Okay, so my third point is about the benefits the U.S. can receive when implementing a policy like this. Implementing a foreign language policy would allow for the U.S. to improve with a larger percentage of bilingual citizens in an increasingly globalized world. According to the book, Developing Multicultural Educators, the decline in foreign language curriculum in America is due to the enactment of NCLB in 2002. So that was a policy enacted by President Bush where it took the focus off of foreign languages and put it on math and reading more. This is not helpful because, as cited earlier, there's a huge Spanish-speaking population in the U.S. as well as millions of other U.S. citizens who didn't speak English as their first language. And I feel like it would be especially helpful for future generations of Americans to know two languages fluently because of the large amount of communication and American jobs being relocated to foreign countries. So knowing another language would allow people to become better candidates for a job, especially if they would need to travel internationally to work in another country temporarily or permanently. So as you think, if you've ever applied for a job, which I'm sure most of you guys have, they ask if you can speak another language, especially if it's for a full-time job. So people who are bilingual in English and Spanish are really big assets to corporations. So in addition, even if people were not to travel for their job, the article English in the World Today talks about the ability of students learning English as learning English in other countries to locate places geographically. If students here were to learn Spanish or French, they would be able to locate Spanish-speaking or French-speaking countries and be able to learn more about their cultures. By knowing about cultures other than their own, students would be less ethnocentric in their thinking and become more accepting of people who are different from them. In conclusion, the U.S. should put a policy in place that requires all public and elementary and middle schools to teach students a foreign language. It is vital to the future of our multilingual and multicultural nation in an ever-increasing globalized world. To review, the brains of young children are extremely moldable and can receive, I definitely did skip this slide, can receive all of this, these languages in their brain with a better pronunciation, and the benefits of learning a foreign language are higher test scores, and the U.S. would benefit immensely from requiring a foreign language to be taught because they would create more bilingual citizens. Thank you.